Welcome back to my channel, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today, we will be diving deep into one of the most shocking and emotionally charged plot developments in recent Bold and the Beautiful history. We're talking about the death of Luna Nozawa and the absolutely devastating confession that will rock the Forrester and Finnegan households to their very core. If you've been following the show closely, you know that Luna has been an incredibly dangerous and unpredictable character throughout her entire run on the show. She's done terrible things, manipulated everyone around her, and put countless innocent people in harm's way. Her storyline has been the subject of intense debate among fans, with many hoping that her reign of terror would finally come to an end. Well, that moment has finally arrived, though it came in a way that absolutely no one expected, and it has left ripples of pain and confusion throughout Port Charles. So, settle in, grab your favorite beverage, and let's explore this absolutely captivating and heartbreaking storyline together. The shocking death of Luna Nozawa. Luna Nozawa's death has sent shockwaves through the entire cast of The Bold and the Beautiful, leaving viewers both devastated and relieved simultaneously. On one hand, everyone understands that Luna was an incredibly dangerous individual who had become a genuine threat to anyone around her. Her actions throughout the series had proven time and time again that she was willing to hurt people, manipulate situations, and pursue her own selfish desires at the expense of everyone else. Her psychological instability and violent tendencies made her one of the most unpredictable and frightening antagonists the show has ever presented. Deputy Chief Baker arrived at the Cliff House with the devastating news, informing the family that Luna had been involved in a tragic car accident while attempting to escape from law enforcement during a massive manhunt on Malibu Beach. The news that she had been struck by a vehicle initially seemed like a straightforward case of a fugitive meeting a tragic end while trying to evade authorities. However, as is often the case with soap operas, the surface-level explanation of events would soon prove to be far more complicated than anyone had anticipated. Baker's official statement was that Luna had died in the accident, and while he confirmed the vehicle collision, he remained conspicuously vague about one crucial detail. He never explicitly stated who was driving the car that hit her. This omission would later prove to be incredibly significant, as it hinted at secrets that were about to come tumbling out into the open. Steffy's desperate confession, the revelation of who was actually behind the wheel of that fateful vehicle, came not from official investigations or evidence gathering, but from Steffy Forrester herself, unable to carry the burden of her secret any longer and unwilling to lie to the man she loves more than anything in the world. Steffy made the agonizing decision to confess the truth to her husband Finn. This was not an easy choice for Steffy. In fact, it was one of the most difficult and terrifying moments of her entire life. The weight of knowing what she had done and keeping that knowledge locked away inside her heart had been slowly destroying her from the inside out. She couldn't sleep properly, couldn't focus on anything, and the guilt was eating away at her constantly. Every time she looked at Finn, she felt like a fraud and a liar, even though technically she had been trying to protect him from an ugly truth. But ultimately, Steffy realized that lies, no matter how well-intentioned, were not the foundation upon which a strong marriage could be built. Real love, real partnership, and real intimacy require honesty and vulnerability, even when that honesty might hurt. So Steffy sat down with Finn, and through tears streaming down her face, she made her confession. She told him that she had been the one driving the car that struck Luna on that foggy Malibu night. The words came out painfully, each sentence seeming to take an enormous amount of courage to speak aloud. She explained that she had not done this intentionally, that it was a terrible accident, a tragic convergence of circumstances that led to Luna being in the wrong place at exactly the wrong moment. Steffy had been driving along that coastal road when Luna suddenly appeared in her headlights, seemingly coming out of nowhere as the fog swirled around them both. Steffy had barely registered what was happening before it was all over. She swerved, she braked, she tried everything she could think of to avoid the collision, but in the end, She simply wasn't able to prevent what happened. It was a terrible accident, a horrible twist of fate, nothing more than that. Or at least, that's what Steffi desperately wanted Finn to believe. The unraveling trust between husband and wife. However, Finn's reaction to Steffi's confession was not what she had hoped for or expected. Instead of offering her understanding, forgiveness, and support, Finn became increasingly angry and upset. His face darkened as the implications of what Steffi was telling him began to sink in. Despite Steffi's repeated assurances that the accident was unintentional, that she had never meant to hurt anyone, Finn could not bring himself to believe her words. Deep down in his heart, Finn had developed a different theory about what had really happened that night. He believed, with increasing certainty, that Steffi had deliberately and intentionally run down Luna. He thought that this was not an accident at all, but a calculated act of murder committed by his own wife. The reasons for Finn's suspicions were not entirely unfounded. After all, Steffi had never been a fan of Luna. She had been horrified and disgusted by Luna's actions, by the way she had terrorized and threatened everyone Steffi cared about. Steffi had been the one who was imprisoned by Luna, held in a cage like an animal, while Luna gloated about her power and control. The trauma of that experience had left deep scars on Steffi's psyche, and Finn knew that she had every reason to want Luna dead. So when Steffi confessed to being the driver, Finn's mind immediately jumped to the worst possible conclusion. He thought that Steffi had finally had enough, that she had decided to take matters into her own hands and eliminate the threat that Luna represented once and for all. The argument that followed between Steffi and Finn was absolutely devastating to witness. Their voices grew louder and louder as they hurled accusations and counter-accusations at one another. Steffi desperately tried to make Finn understand that this was genuinely an accident, that she would never intentionally commit murder, that she was not the kind of person to take someone's life even if that someone was Luna Nozawa. She begged him to believe her, to have faith in her character, to understand that while she may have wished Luna was gone, she would never actually kill her. But Finn would not listen. He was convinced that he could see through her denials and excuses to the truth that lay beneath. In his mind, Steffi was either lying to protect herself from legal consequences, or she was lying because she was ashamed of what she had done. Or perhaps she was lying because even she couldn't quite accept the terrible truth of her own actions. Whatever the reason for her lies, Finn was certain that this was no accident. He believed that his wife had deliberately struck Luna with her car, and he could not get past that belief no matter what Steffi said or did. The devastating separation. The argument reached a breaking point when Finn, unable to continue the conversation any longer, made a decision that absolutely shattered Steffi. He told her that he needed to leave, that he couldn't be around her right now, that he needed time and space to process what he had just learned. With those words hanging in the air between them, Finn got up from the couch and walked toward the door. Steffi watched in horror as the man she loved more than anything in the world prepared to walk out of her life. She called after him, begging him to stay, begging him to listen to her, begging him to give her a chance to make him understand. But Finn's heart had already begun to close itself off. He was hurt, he was angry, and he felt betrayed by the woman who was supposed to be his partner in life. He opened the door and walked out into the night, leaving Steffi standing alone in their home, devastated and desperate. The moment Finn left the house marked a turning point in their relationship. What had seemed like a strong and unbreakable marriage suddenly felt fragile and uncertain. The act that was supposed to bring them closer together through honesty had instead driven a wedge between them that threatened to destroy everything they had built together over the years. The emotional aftermath and family chaos. The fallout from this shocking revelation would not be contained within the four walls of the Forrester Finnegan mansion. News of Luna's death, combined with growing questions about the circumstances surrounding it, began to spread throughout the community. The family members were forced to grapple with the reality of what had happened and what it meant for their loved ones. Poppy, Luna's mother, was devastated by the loss of her daughter even though their relationship had always been complicated and fraught with difficulty. Lee, Luna's biological mother, experienced a complex mixture of emotions, feeling both relief that Luna's reign of terror had finally ended and sadness over the tragic circumstances of her death. The rest of the Forrester clan found themselves caught in the middle of Steffy's crisis, unsure of how to help her or what to say to her in this incredibly difficult time. Everyone recognized that regardless of the circumstances surrounding Luna's death, the relationship between Steffy and Finn had been severely damaged by what had transpired. Their marriage, which had seemed so strong and loving just days before, now teetered on the brink of collapse. The psychological toll of this situation on Steffy was immense. She had made the brave decision to confess her involvement in the accident, to be honest with the man she loved, and instead of finding understanding and forgiveness, she had found accusation and rejection. She was forced to grapple with the question of whether she had made a terrible mistake in telling Finn the truth. Perhaps, she thought to herself in her darkest moments, it would have been better to maintain the lie, to let everyone believe that Luna had simply been hit by a random vehicle driven by someone who is never identified. At least then she would still have her marriage, her home, her life as she knew it. But now, she had lost all of those things, or at least it felt that way as she sat alone in their beautiful home, knowing that her husband was somewhere out there in the night, wrestling with his own demons and his own doubts about who his wife really was. The emotional landscape of the show had shifted dramatically, and viewers were left wondering how these characters would ever find their way back to one another, or if their relationship had been irrevocably broken by the truth. The question of intent and truth. At the heart of this entire situation lies a fundamental question that will likely drive the storyline forward in the weeks and months to come. Was Steffy telling the truth about the accident being unintentional, or was Finn correct in his suspicion that she deliberately ran down Luna? This question is not merely an academic exercise or a matter of legal responsibility. Rather, it goes to the very heart of who these characters are and what they are capable of doing. Steffy has always presented herself as a good person, as someone who wants to do the right thing even when that thing is difficult or costly. She has tried to be a good wife to Finn, a good member of the Forrester family, and a responsible businesswoman. Yet she also has a dark side, a capacity for ruthlessness and manipulation that has surfaced at various points throughout her life. Finn, for his part, has always been portrayed as someone with strong moral convictions and a commitment to justice and truth. He became a doctor because he wanted to help people and save lives. He married Steffy because he loved her and believed in their future together. But now he finds himself in a situation where he must question everything he thought he knew about the woman he chose to spend his life with. The tension between these two contradictory impulses within Finn, between his love for Steffy and his belief in her guilt, creates an enormous amount of dramatic potential for the storyline going forward. The broader implications for the show. Luna's death and the confession that followed it represent a major turning point for the bold and the beautiful. Throughout her time on the show, Luna had been a source of constant chaos and danger, a character whose unpredictability kept viewers on the edge of their seats week after week. Her death eliminates one major source of conflict, but it creates many new ones in the process. The question of whether Steffy intentionally killed her is not one that will be easily or quickly resolved. Finn's doubt about Steffy's truthfulness will likely drive a significant portion of the show's narrative in the coming months. Will he come to believe her eventually, or will his suspicions harden into certainty? Will Steffy find a way to prove her innocence, or will the evidence against her continue to pile up? These are the kinds of questions that keep soap opera fans engaged and invested in the storylines week after week, month after month. The writers of The Bold and The Beautiful have clearly set up a situation with enormous emotional and dramatic potential. They have taken one of the show's most hated characters and removed her from the canvas in a way that creates maximum disruption and conflict among the other characters. They have also created a situation where the line between right and wrong becomes increasingly blurred, where a character, who we generally root for, is now credibly suspected of committing a terrible act, and where the resolution of this conflict is far from certain. The road ahead. As we look forward to future episodes, there are many questions that need to be answered. Will Steffy be able to convince Finn that she is telling the truth about the accident? Will he eventually forgive her and reconcile with her? Or will their marriage be destroyed beyond repair? Will investigators uncover evidence that proves or disproves Steffy's account of events? Will other characters become aware of the accusations flying between Steffy and Finn? And if so, how will they react? Will Steffy face any legal consequences for her involvement in Luna's death, even if it was unintentional? These are all questions that will likely be explored as the show moves forward with this storyline. What we can say with certainty is that the events surrounding Luna's death and Steffy's confession represent a watershed moment for both characters and for the show as a whole. The relationships that were thought to be stable and secure have been thrown into question. The trust that bound certain characters together has been shattered, and the comfortable certainties of the show's universe have been replaced with uncertainty and doubt. In many ways, this is exactly what great soap opera storytelling is supposed to do. It is supposed to disrupt our expectations, challenge our assumptions about what characters are capable of, and force us to grapple with complex moral questions that don't have easy answers. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into one of the bold and the beautiful's most compelling recent storylines. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel for more analysis and discussion of your favorite soap operas. And let me know in the comments section what you think will happen next between Steffy and Finn. Next, we will dive into a chilling new mystery that's about to shake Katie Logan, Elektra Forrester, and the entire Forrester Creations PR machine. This expanded breakdown takes the core spoiler teasers about those strange text messages and pushes them further, exploring what they might really mean for Luna's death, Dylan's hidden guilt, and the looming power shift inside the fashion empire. Ominous texts rock Forrester. The tension kicks off during the week of November 24th to 28th, when Katie and Elektra start receiving a series of anonymous messages that feel more like warnings than casual texts. Each notification rattles them a little more, because the wording is vague enough to be creepy, but specific enough to suggest that the sender knows their deepest fears about recent events. Instead of obvious threats, the texts read like someone dropping puzzle pieces, hints about what really happened the night Luna's life was supposedly cut short, and urging them to look again at the story they were so quick to accept. Although Deputy Chief Baker already insisted that Luna Nozawa is dead and that the case is closed, neither Katie nor Elektra can shake the sense that these messages are coming from someone close to the truth, if not from Luna herself. Luna has already defied the odds once by coming back from the brink, so the idea of a return from the grave isn't just some horror movie cliché for this crowd. It's a legitimate possibility that keeps everybody on edge. As the texts pile up, the women are forced to reopen emotional wounds they had tried to seal, revisiting every detail of the night Luna's car was hit and every assumption they made afterward. Katie and Elektra under pressure. For Katie, the timing could not be worse, because she is already sensing that her place at Forrester Creations' PR department is more fragile than anyone wants to admit. In a world where image is everything and youth-driven digital strategies dominate, Katie feels the ground slipping under her feet as talk of bringing in new talent intensifies behind closed doors. The anonymous texts only deepen her anxiety, because if some ugly secret from the past explodes now, it will be Katie's name, and not just Elektra's, on the line when the press starts demanding answers. Elektra, still raw from the deep-fake nightmare that nearly destroyed her career, views every new message as a potential second wave of the same humiliation. Someone once used technology to twist her identity and turn the entire internet against her. So of course she wonders if this is Remy Price resurfacing with a new game. The possibility that these texts might be connected to Luna's supposed death is even more terrifying. because Elektra knows that if the public learns she was even indirectly tied to that tragedy through the digital scandal, her fragile comeback could implode overnight. As the two women study the messages together, zooming in on screen captures, analyzing punctuation, and debating who would know specific details, their partnership slowly transforms from a basic co-worker alliance into a reluctant war room for crisis management. Dylan steps out of the shadows. Into this pressure cooker walks Dylan, once known as Ms. Dylan to her art students, who surfaces in the Forrester design office with a polished new look and a heavy conscience. Having taught Hayes Finnegan and his friends, Dylan is no stranger to the Forrester orbit, but this time she arrives not as a teacher, rather as someone poised to cross over into the corporate world of fashion, image, and international branding. Forrester Creations, the powerful Los Angeles fashion house at the center of the bold and the beautiful, has always thrived on carefully crafted public narratives, and Dylan's artistic eye makes her a natural candidate to help manage that image in a more official capacity. Spoilers hint that Dylan's guilt finally boils over, pushing her to ask Elektra for a private conversation, a choice that instantly tells viewers this is not just about Luna or the deepfake scandal in some abstract way. She does not go to Baker, or to Ridge, or to Steffy. She goes straight to Elektra, signaling that whatever she has been hiding is entangled with Elektra's personal story. One theory is that Dylan was involved in the car incident that nearly killed Luna, perhaps as the driver who panicked and fled, or as a witness who buried what she saw when pressure closed in. Another, even more insidious possibility is that Dylan was unknowingly drawn into Remy Price's deepfake operation, maybe by providing reference art, manipulating images as a freelance job, or leaving harsh public comments that amplified the online mob against Elektra. As she sits across from Elektra in that sleek office, Dylan's confession could start with something that seems small, a payment she accepted from a shell account, a file she edited without asking questions, a tip she ignored the night of the accident, and then snowball into a devastating admission. The cryptic texts that have been tormenting Katie and Elektra may ultimately turn out to be Dylan's clumsy attempt to push the truth into the light without exposing herself too quickly, sending riddles instead of signing her name, until the guilt becomes unbearable and she steps forward in person. A looming shake-up in PR. Behind the emotional weight of Dylan's confession lurks a more pragmatic, corporate consequence. Katie's career may be the quiet casualty of this storyline. Rumors already suggest that someone fresh is about to take over key PR responsibilities at Forrester, and Dylan's rival in a sleek, ready for business ensemble in the promo clip all but screams that she is being positioned as the new face of the company's public image. If Dylan is indeed being brought in to handle high-risk crises and modernize Forrester's media approach, then Katie's sense of being cast aside stops being just insecurity and becomes a very real, very painful reality. That dynamic gives Dylan another layer of guilt beyond any involvement she may have had with Luna or the deepfake scandal. If she knows that her hiring is directly tied to the fallout from Elektra's digital nightmare, the very trauma she may have helped fuel, then accepting the job without coming clean would make her complicit in profiting from Elektra's suffering. At the same time, she may feel just as conflicted about Katie, who has spent years stabilizing Forrester's public profile through fashion shows, charity events, and damage control whenever the Forresters' love lives hit the headlines. Forrester Creations has always centered on powerful family rivalries, glamorous fashion, and the constant battle to protect the brand from scandal. And the PR office often functions as the first line of defense when secrets start leaking. Her confession could force Katie to confront the uncomfortable truth that the same story she tried to spin and contain is now being used as justification to replace her. It also may leave Elektra having to decide whether to support Dylan's new role after everything she hears, or to insist that Forrester leadership know exactly what mistakes Dylan made before trusting her as the face of their crisis strategy. Luna's night, rewritten. At the heart of all of this lies Luna Nozawa and the unresolved questions surrounding the night she was struck down. Officially, the narrative is simple. Luna is dead, the case has been processed, the investigators have moved on. Unofficially, the anonymous texts hint that crucial pieces of that night never made it into the police report, and Dylan's guilty conscience makes it hard to believe she was just a passive bystander reading about it after the fact. Maybe she saw the car swerving seconds before impact or noticed another vehicle speeding away. Maybe she received a mysterious call from Remy or an unknown number right as the accident happened, connecting those two threads more tightly than anyone suspected. If Dylan reveals that she was actually behind the wheel, everything viewers thought they knew about Luna's death shatters, because it opens the door to more complicated questions. Was Dylan manipulated into that position? Did someone tamper with evidence to protect her or redirect blame? Did she suppress memories out of shock only to have them resurface in fragments, which then became the basis for the cryptic texts? On the other hand, if she confesses to being used by Remy as a willing or unwitting pawn in the deepfake operation, the focus shifts from physical culpability to moral responsibility. She might not have touched Luna's car, but she helped destroy Electra's life online, feeding a chain of events that still hasn't stopped. Either way, the week of November 24th to 28th is being set up as the moment when Dylan stops hiding and the anonymous messages finally trace back to a real face, real tears, and real consequences. Katie will have to decide whether she wants to cling to her job at all costs or walk away from a PR machine that seems ready to sacrifice her experience for a fresh narrative. Electra will stand at the center of a triangle of guilt: Remy's original cruelty, Dylan's complicity, and Katie's professional compromises, and choose whom to forgive, whom to expose, and whether she can keep working in a company where her trauma has become a business opportunity. And hovering over all of it is the lingering question that could blow the story wide open. If there are still secrets about Luna's fate, then this so-called case closed might be anything but, leaving room for one more twist that no one in Los Angeles sees coming.